Hello, friends, and happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Share Your Story with Ellie. I'm your host, Ellie B, and I'm so glad you're back for part 2 of my conversation with Lyndsey. If you missed last Thursday's episode, be sure to go back and listen. In part 1, you'll learn all about Lyndsey's photography career. She shares about how she got started and what makes her stand out as a very talented wedding photographer. Lyndsey's goal is to capture the feelings behind life's big moments so that each time you look at an image, you're transported back to that day. Part 1 of our conversation sets the foundation for so much of what we dive into in this week's episode. Today on the show, we dive into Lyndsey's other businesses, leading a sales team for the skincare company NuSkin. This may seem like a random choice, but Lyndsey offers insight into how God intertwined different pieces of her life in order to give her a successful and fulfilling career. I love how she shares how following God's nudges for her own life led her into these life-giving ventures and how she can share those passions with others. She also shares her advice about starting a business, the importance of defining your why, and hope if you're in the midst of singleness. Lyndsey brings so much energy to everything she does, and part 2 of our conversation is no different. I cannot wait for you to hear. So without further delay, here's part 2 of my conversation with Lyndsey. Tell me about NuSkin, about leadership. How did you even get started in NuSkin?
Yeah, so it's so funny because growing up, again, I never knew what I wanted to do, but I always loved skincare. Loved it, loved getting facials, loved being able to I love picking pimples and all of that. I'm blackheads. I am the girl that's gross, that the way that I calm down at night is watching Dr. Pimple Popper.
Couldn't be me. Actually makes me want to vomit with you just putting that visual in my head, but thank you.
I love it. I love it. So I always thought it would be so fun to be an esthetician. I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to do this for a living,
Yeah.
God had a different path for me. So didn't pursue that. But 2020 hit, and like I kind of referred to before, 2020 was supposed to be the year of all years. I had weddings booked in 5 or 6 different countries.
Wow.
It was, and I was living over in the UK at this time.
Yes.
So I was just on a high again. I started my New Year's in Paris and London. I mean, come on.
Right.
I'm yes, I've
the stuff
made
of
it.
Dreams. Yes.
Right, exactly. So I'm thinking this is gonna be amazing. Well, I come back to shoot a wedding in Florida, and this was in February, and I was only supposed to be gone for a week, and the world shut down the week that I was here. So I had a choice if I stay in Florida and stay with my parents, just kind of feel it out, or go back to Scotland and be stuck in my flat, could not leave, could not see anybody.
And how long had you been in Scotland at that point?
2 years.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So all my stuff's there.
You're right.
All of my stuff. Again, I thought
your life is there.
Yeah. I was and funnily enough, I am an overpacker. This was the one time I did not overpack, and
perfect.
We'll never do that again. I would rather bring my entire dresser.
You will pay for the extra bag.
Yes.
Heavy feet, all of it. Yes.
Yeah, because now I have PTSD from it.
Yeah.
So I really didn't have much on me. And I was looking at it and I was like, okay, do I stay in Florida where it's open, the beach is here, it's sunshiny, or do I go back to Scotland where it's rainy, the days are short, I can't see anyone, I'm living on my own, it's depressing,
isolating.
It's very isolating, and all my friends weren't able to work for 2 years, whereas I was able to thank God, pick up jobs, and have all these backyard weddings. And so anyways, I realized in a really short amount of time, because my weddings within the span of 24 hours all went away. I was booked out.
So scary.
So scary. I was booked out the entire year, had my whole year and a half planned out.
Yeah.
And in a matter of 24 hours, everything just went silent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and my mom had always told me that it's really important to own your own business and do something that people will always need you no matter what happens in the world.
Right. Right.
So I thought it was pretty safe because I was like, everyone's getting married, right? Well, what happens when the government's like, you cannot be around multiple people? You cannot.
Plot twist.
Yeah, plot twist. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I realized that, you know, this job is not, it's fully dependent on me, which is a very liberating thing.
Right.
But it's also very terrifying because you just never know like what happened, what's going to happen.
Right.
And so around this time, I was actually dealing with like a ton of skincare problems. I would like go and get facials before the world shut down, I would go and get facials like all the time. And my skin would be great for like first 2 days and then it would go back to being horrible again. And my friend kept telling me, who's also a photographer, she kept telling me about this product called the Lumi Spa.
Yeah.
And I had, I feel like I spent so much money on skincare. So at the time it was $199. And I was like, oh, I literally spent so much money. Like, no, I don't need that. Yeah. And it was, again, COVID times. And I'm like, you got to watch what you're spending money on.
Yes.
So I was like, no, like, I'm not doing that. And then 3 months go by and I keep seeing before and after. So I was like, you know what? Fine, I'm going to get it. So I got it. And like literally after the first time I used it, I got on my stories and I was like, oh my gosh, I am obsessed with this.
Yes.
Everybody go to my friend Brooke. And I was like, go and ask her for a link because like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And she immediately was like, no. Like, don't send them to me. Like, I can show you how to make commission off of this. And I was like, I did not get that. I was like, I don't want these products shipped to me and me shipped to them. She was like, no, it's literally like an Amazon link. Like they say they like it. You send the link, they get the product directly to them. You make commission, except you make between 20 and 40% commission. And I was like, come again? Like, what is that?
One more time.
What's that? So, and it's so funny because I feel like at this time, like, I feel like it's fine now, but back when like influencers are really coming up, I feel like they had a bad rep. Like, it's just like, you know, and I was so scared of coming off like, what are you trying to be, like an influencer now?
Yes.
You know? Which is so silly. And if anyone were to say that to me today, I would be like, yeah, you know, what are you gonna do about it? Like, I'm making money, it's fine. But back then it used to bother me so much, which is like, again, just very silly. But I just didn't really know if I wanted to like get into that. So I kind of sat on the sidelines for a little bit. And then I started seeing people that I started the business with, like just started like the same time that I did. And they were like, they were able to be stay-at-home moms. They were able to like go on these amazing trips.
Yeah.
And buy things that are like expensive. And I'm sitting there like, hold the phone. Like, I'm over here stressing out and trying to book any job I can.
Right.
And I've had the power of just being able to send a link to a product that I genuinely use every single morning and night and I'm obsessed with. And like, I could be making money off of this. Like, why am I getting in my own way? So it wasn't until like 2021, I was just like, whatever, screw it. I don't care what people think about me. And I went fully in, and it has been a wild ride. Like, I am obsessed. I love it so much. It's kind of funny because I always said wedding photography or photography in general is my baby. And then this would just be a side hustle. And now they're like both my babies. Like, I love them so much. And what I found is how I can link them is the fact that like, so brides, when they're getting married, you want beautiful skin.
You do the overhaul of everything in your life to show up as the most beautiful on that day.
Perfect version of yourself. And me being a photographer, I'm on the other end. So like, I know not everyone's perfect. I am so close to your skin and your pores in Photoshop, making sure that you look flawless.
That is terrifying.
Oh yeah. I have seen pores. Okay. And like they get their photos back and they're like, oh my gosh, my skin looks so great. I'm like, no, bitch. Like, I did that.
You are welcome.
You are welcome.
Your personal esthetician via Photoshop.
Yes. So I was like, I was able to finally become an esthetician after all, you know what I mean? Like just through Photoshop. So I thought, I was like, why don't I promote this to my brides, because it's like, this is, if I know the answer to
Right.
have them have beautiful skin, like why wouldn't I try to put that out there for them to get?
Right.
So it's been amazing. And you know, for a long time it was just me doing it, and then I had a ton of people come to me and ask me like, hey, you know, what are
How
you
do you do
doing?
this? Yeah.
Yeah. And that has honestly now been why I do the business. Like at first it was just so fun,
Yeah.
and like a no brainer, and it still is. But I think because any job that you do is work, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and there are going to be good days, there are going to be bad days, and it's sales. So there's going to be months that suck. There's going to be months that are amazing. And you have to have a strong why to like get through those months that are hard.
Absolutely.
And this, you know, with my photography, like it was just me, myself, and I, and it's my passion, like taking photos. This is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
But I have seen this business opened so many doors for the girls that have come in and asked me how to do it, and to be able to be a business coach for them and to lead them in their sales has been so rewarding, because it's like
Yeah.
they're changing their family's, you know, generation of, you know, generational wealth. Like they're
Yeah.
able to find income where they can quit their 9 to 5 job that is making them miserable, and they have to leave their newborn babies at
Right.
home because they can't afford a sitter. Like they're now able to leave that job and be home with their kids because they can work from the comfort of their own home off of their phone.
Right.
So it's been wild. If you know, I've had to be very disciplined, and I'm not all the time because they both require so much of me. But
Yeah.
again, I think I just thrive in chaos. So
Yeah.
I
So
love
invite
both
more
of
in.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, invite more in. I'm like, if things are going too smoothly, I'm like, something's wrong. You know?
Yeah. What's happening next?
Yeah, I need
What
drama.
kind of with the both of those though, I'm sure it was a process of getting started to actually seeing success. Like what were those initial months in both photography and NuSkin where you aren't seeing the payoff immediately, or you're having to keep building, and like what keeps you motivated at that point, and when was the shift, would you say?
That's a great question, because I feel like when you own your own business, there's never a moment where like things are going to shift and you have, you know, have made it. You know, like as soon
Yeah.
as you feel like you've gotten comfortable and you've like, I've got it, something is always around the corner that's going to
Yeah.
humble you really fast, like real fast.
Yeah.
So I think that has been just kind of like taking the punches when they come. And again, in both businesses, having a strong why is so important,
Yeah.
because listen, I love photography, but there are days where I don't want to take another dang photo. You know what I mean? Like,
Or
there
sit
are
there and
days,
edit someone else's pimple.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, trust me, there are days where I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
fun. Because again, like once you get paid, it becomes a job, and any job, there's going to have moments where it's just not fun and you don't want to do
Yeah.
it. So, you know, just kind of knowing that will come,
Yeah.
and how are you going to adapt to it? And I think what's always been my North Star is having a strong why of why I got into it, you know, reminding me like what it's done for me, and ultimately creating moments for myself that bring back my passion. So whether that's
That's
like,
good.
if you're a photographer and you feel drained and you feel like you're shooting things that, because that does happen, where you're shooting weddings that you're like, these weddings will never see the light of day. Like this is just to get, food on the table, but this is
Yeah.
not like, this doesn't align with my style or anything like that.
Right.
Um,
Or
and
I'm
then
sure even it gets tedious to do detail shots of the ring and the like that kind of thing over and over again.
all the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and that will be, you know, again, it's like going off of that is like creating something that is going to relight that fire. And so it's like setting up a styled shoot, setting up something that is more you, that's really something that you can have full control over.
Yeah.
For me, actually, it's really funny. So just a disclaimer, I am not a birth photographer, okay? But I shot my first birth last week.
Yes. Oh my gosh, those are insane.
And when I tell you, I feel like a new photographer all over, like in the sense of just my whimsical, bright eye, like look on the world, like, oh, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not like cynical photographer anymore.
Fresh
You know what I mean?
perspective.
Fresh
Yes.
perspective, because there's something so beautiful. Again, like before, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm photographing a birth. Like, I don't know what this is going to be like. But it was it was something like photographing life. It was so inspiring. And the
Yeah.
fact that like it reminded me that these are photos that they are never, like, if it weren't for me, they would never be able to relive that day again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whether it's a wedding or you're if you're like, I'm just taking family photos right now and I haven't broken into, weddings yet. The family, that's like their kids are going to grow, so it's
Yeah.
like getting like photos of, the little kid like holding their dad's finger when they're walking, and like
Oh, yeah.
creating like different shots like that inspire you, that remind you, like, if it were not for you, these, like this family or this couple,
These intimate moments
are lost. And
Yeah.
it's like, that whole birth experience like really reignited that passion that I felt like I kind of lost a little bit. Cause like when I
Yeah.
get to weddings, I'm like, oh, this is great and I love it and blah, blah, blah. But then, weddings they are brutal,
Yeah.
and when you get home at night, you forget about how much love there was. You're like, everything hurts.
Yes. I've been on my feet for 7 hours. I've exhausted my physical energy, but also that emotional and relational
Beyond.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, 7 hours, girl. Like, tell me 12. Like, 7 hours is like an easy day. Are you kidding me? I would want 7 hours. No, 12 hours. And like, you get home, and like in the wedding industry, we call it a wedding hangover. Like, you could literally not have an ounce of alcohol, and you feel like you drank an entire bottle of wine, and you just like feel like you got run over by a train like multiple times, and you're like, no one talk to me. So yeah, I think kind of going back to like even in NuSkin, I'm very, very goal driven. I did not really know this about me until I got into NuSkin, but like I love hitting a goal, and like I love a healthy competition.
Yes.
So I think for me, that's where I thrive, in like the sales route of that, where it's like I can be creative still on my stories and how I share the products and on my feed and everything like that. But when it comes to like when it's a slow month and you just feel like, is this for me anymore? It's not working out. It's like finding a way to drive yourself. So like there's so many incentives that NuSkin puts out. Like right now, there's one where if you hit a certain sales by the end of December, you get a free all-inclusive for you and a +1 trip to Paris. And so you bet your bottom dollar. I am like, even in the trenches, I am like, this is going to be awesome. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's just like constantly reinventing yourself and just never settling. And there will be times, I'm not going to lie, there have been times in my life where like I've been complacent and settled. And then you just get like a swift kick in the bum, and you realize that like you were meant for so much more, and like God has designed you to be better, and like you can do that. It's no one says it's gonna be easy, right? But like that's the fun of it.
Totally. I also think God absolutely designed us to live in community with one another, and owning your own business is an independent venture, and
so isolating.
And the two things you are doing could be very isolating to be the one and only. And from the outside in, and even as you talk about your values in this, you can tell that you've also created community around it, which I think is really, really important. Like having that connection with the bride and groom and family, mainly the bride, we know, that is developing that relationship that is so beyond showing up and shooting a photo. Same thing with coaching girls and being in the business with other people that, yes, you are independently responsible for your own sales, but you can lean on one another. And I think it's usually in isolation that the enemy whispers the loudest about that you're not qualified enough. There's shame in this, even the, why are you trying to post on Instagram, whatever. But when you have a community of people around you in anything that you do, there is something else to live for and to feel encouraged by.
And I think that it's like, one of the things that I learned being in the NuSkin industry, is, you are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And you always want to surround yourself with people that are better than you. I think if you are the best person in the room, you should like look for another room, because that is when you get real complacent, you get real cocky, and you just think like, I got this. And I never want to be the best in the room, whether that's in NuSkin or whether that's in photography. I always want to be learning. And I think you're so right. Like photography is very isolating because it's, me, myself, and I in my edit cave.
I was going to say the stories on your Instagram that always say back in the edit cave.
Back in my edit cave. And it's very sad and lonely. And the only time I like really see people are like at weddings,
Right.
And it's not like, hey, it's like I'm, doing a service for them.
Right.
Yeah. And so NuSkin has been such a beautiful godsend for me because the people, like those girls that I met back in 2020, they have truly become like sisters to me. And they've made me a better entrepreneur, not only for NuSkin, but like for my photography, because of how they lead and what they pull out of me in my NuSkin business. It's like made me kind of like also look over at my photography business and be like, how can I level up here? You know what I mean?
How you feed that. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, what would you say is your biggest advice to someone who wants to get started in whatever business that looks like? If that's jumping into NuSkin, for sure, we're going to tag you and make sure people follow you, find you. But if they, want to start their own jewelry business, or they've been looking at jumping into the food influencing game, or they make stationery, like whatever it is, what would you say is your biggest piece of advice as someone is getting started?
Do it scared. I think, it's funny because my mom is probably one of, she's someone that I look up to so much just for business.
Yeah.
And, at the beginning of the year, I was nervous. I was like, things are not looking like they usually have been. And I just don't know what to do. And she was like, when things are slow and you're scared, that is when something truly incredible happens for your, in your life and in your business.
Yeah.
And I think, doing it scared, it's, kind of what you were saying, when we were talking about just even the podcast, it's like, don't sit back and wait for everything to be perfect.
Yep.
Because if you look at statistically, if you look at the people that just did it, ripped the Band-Aid off and went for it, whatever that venture is, and they stumbled along the way, they are so much further in business and their success than the person that's probably still sitting on the sideline trying to get everything like perfect and all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, like everything is perfect. And then they step out and they're like, no experience, don't know what to do. And so, I think doing it scared. And the biggest thing is like, please don't worry about what people think about you. Like I, thankfully, I've never really struggled that hard with that. Because I feel like I'm just, if you know me, I'm just like, it is what it is. This is who I am. But I would lie if I thought like there were some moments in my life where like, I'm like, ooh, like, I'm worried of what people would think, like back in the day when I was like, oh, people are going to think I'm like some influencer now. But I think that is robbing only yourself, because at the end of the day, people will probably judge me so much in my life. And I sit there and I'm like, you're judging me behind a screen.
Yeah.
But like, what are you doing in your life?
Yeah.
And even if somebody has, like, even if someone does judge you, prove them wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much power in the fact that it's like what someone says about you does not define you. Like, those
Yeah.
are their thoughts. Cool, have
Right.
them. I really don't care.
Right.
But like, my bank account is going to show you otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like my happiness or
Yeah.
whatever, fill in
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z.
That's
It's
good.
like,
Yeah.
like, I think that if you're holding yourself back because of what someone else thinks, like, they probably had a thought about you for like 0.5 seconds and they moved on, they're
Right.
judging someone else. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, why would you hold back and alter your life to appease the appeal of others? And if
Right.
they really care about you, they're not going to judge you.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is, when you start a business, you will find out who your true friends are.
Mm.
That's a very hard lesson to learn, everyone.
Yeah.
But I also found that out when I got engaged. There's going to be, I think they said that it's like really exciting moments and really depressing moments, like in traumatic moments in your
Mm.
life. Like, you find out who your true friends are.
Yeah.
And starting a business is definitely, like, you definitely find that out.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage that person to see it through,
Yeah.
and that it's probably God saving you from
Mm.
something, because you are leveling up in your life and they are staying down here. And like,
Yeah.
that's why I said, going back to you, the sum of the five people,
Yeah.
make sure you are not the best person in the room. So if you're looking at, Susie over here, who is holding you back and judging you, you're always going to stay back,
Yeah. Yeah. My counselor always says you are in charge of your own actions, not other people's reactions.
Oh, that's
And
good. Mic drop.
I have to repeat that to myself probably weekly, as a people pleaser, but also as someone who's very internally motivated. And the cross between those things is difficult to manage, but ultimately recognizing, like you said, knowing at the core of what you really want, what your motivation is, what your why is,
Mm-hmm.
those things fall off and they're not going to matter when you see the success, whatever that term looks like. Like you said, happiness, joy level, income, whatever that looks like.
Right.
It will pay off in dividends.
It will. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I remember when I first started my photography business and was traveling all over the world, like, the people that were in my life at that point in time were like, married, and they were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm living on a suitcase and staying on this person's couch, and my
Right.
friends back at home are judging me, but I just thought, whatever, like, I am just
Yeah.
living my life. And now I look back and, I'm not friends with those people anymore, because I realized that I wanted to step into a different part of my life, and I didn't want anyone's thoughts or judgments holding me back.
Yeah.
And thank God I did that, because look at all of the experiences that I've had, because I didn't give a flying flip about what, this person thought about me,
It's so true. And I think, learning the value of there's a season for everything. And sometimes that includes friendships and relationships and those kinds of, which is hard, but it's like people can serve a purpose for a specific amount of time, but that doesn't have to mean forever. And then also, I think not judging yourself in the midst of things, like, like giving yourself the space and room to be like, that's just not where I am anymore, or not what I can offer anymore, or even not limiting your own success by judging yourself, but by saying, like, what am I capable of? And leaning on those people who in that season are the right motivators, the right encouragers. And there will be people there are there for a lifetime. Other people, it is for a season. And I think it's gotten tricky because we are so connected via social media that it feels like it's a terrible thing to not be friends with someone anymore. And it used to be that you just lost touch. Like, you stopped picking up the phone, or stop sending a letter.
Yeah.
Now it's like you can see what they ate for breakfast, and now you're feeling guilty. So I think that's a really, really important point.
And it goes back to just like knowing your why. Like, if your why is strong enough, then nothing can get in the way of your dreams, and ultimately, getting to a place, whatever success means to you. You know?
Yeah. So true. Well, I know I've kept you for a long time. I have two final things. One,
Oh, I love it. I'm like,
we
feel
have
like it's
right?
been 5 minutes.
I know. It's so fun. It's so, so fun. First, a major congratulations on your engagement and upcoming
Thank
wedding.
you. Thank you.
And people need to go to your Instagram and see the story of your proposal in
I literally
gorgeous
just
Scotland.
watched it last night. Like I was like crying to myself, like, Brad, like we're so in love.
It plays out like a limited series, you know, like will they, won't they, what's happening, what's all the activities. Like it really could be broken into like an Apple TV series. So
no, I love it.
Highly recommend everyone to go and watch that journey unfold. But you've been behind the camera so long, like you mentioned. What do you what are some of your takeaways from being behind the lens in planning, in relationships, and you know, just all those things that as you've observed for so long, now that it's your turn, what has your perspective offered you that you may not have had without being in that position?
As planning a wedding, like
relationship, planning a wedding, all of it. All of it.
Gosh. We could talk for another hour on this one. Like, let me take you to church, folks. Okay. So as far as weddings go, what has always spoke to me when I've photographed weddings, which is so funny that when COVID happened, because prior to COVID, I found that when I did my best work was always intimate weddings. And it was great because when I moved to the UK, I was targeting American brides coming over and having a small destination wedding. Yeah. So when I started shooting that type of wedding, instead of just like the country club where 200, 300 people, I was like, wow, this is when I can really come alive because time is slowing down. Couples don't really care about a lot of the fluff of like a big wedding. Again, big weddings are great. I'm not trying to, diss on them at all, but it was
you don't have to be married to a schedule of events on a calendar.
It was just like the intimacy that again, like I strive to capture emotion and feeling. And I feel like, it's so much easier when you have more of like an intimate setting. And so I went into, it's so funny because again, I could literally talk about this for like an hour. When we got engaged, I had always said like, I'm eloping. And anytime I would talk to my brides, like the week of their wedding, they would call me bawling, crying, stressed. And I'd have this whole speech for them. I'd be like, listen, it does not matter, blah, blah, blah. As soon as this ring went on my finger, I was like, oh my God, like I get it. Like, I don't think I enjoyed wedding planning. So we got engaged January and it's now July. And I don't think I think I started enjoying it in June. Because it's like once you get all your like big vendors and you have the vision for your wedding, that's great. But prior to that, it's, oh my gosh. I mean, again,
so many decisions,
and I have decision
and
paralysis.
Options.
Yeah.
Oh, same.
And like, I mean, let's just start with like, who would I pick to photograph my wedding? Like, that took me the longest. Like,
I can't imagine.
I was like, can I just like put a tripod and like take my own photos? Like, this is way too hard. But ultimately, I kept going back to the fact that I said, I want something very intimate and very small. Like, do I have a ton of friends that I could invite everyone? Yes. Would that be so fun? Absolutely. But it was just again of like, I know how a big wedding feels for like I've seen firsthand how stressed out my brides get.
Right.
Very, very few brides that I have thrive in like a big person wedding.
Yeah.
That's great. But most of the time the brides are stressed.
Yeah.
I have rarely seen a bride who has an intimate wedding. Like she may be like anxious and stressed for like a second. Yeah. But like for the most part, she's
able to enjoy. Yeah.
She is able to enjoy. And so I was like, I know that I want that. And then as far as vendors go, I think it's just what I have stuck to. And again, this is a little different because I am in the industry. I just didn't want it to feel like I was working. Like I am a huge perfectionist. I am psycho at times. And so I know if a person holds a camera a certain way, I can tell that, like, and if they're pointing it at me, I'd be like, they're not getting the right angle. Like, I'd be like, nope, they're not getting it.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I think for me, it was like, it was really important to surround myself, because it also is very intimate, surround myself with vendors that I know and I've worked with.
Right.
And then like, I know how good of a job they do.
Mm.
Um, and will allow me to just check out. Like,
Yeah.
they are the best in the business. I feel, like I can just kind of do this and just be a bride.
Right.
My photographer is, and when you are choosing a photographer, again, doing a discovery call, making sure you mesh well with them. For me, it was a little different because the vendors that I chose, I know very well.
Yeah.
My photographer is a friend of mine, but she's also somebody that I've always looked up to in the industry. Like, she's
Mm.
always pushing my boundaries to like be more creative. Like, she's
Yeah.
always, getting me to think outside the box. And so I was like,
Right.
I would love to see what my day would look like through her lens.
Wow. Yeah.
And I
That's so
know that
cool.
she would capture the day as if going back to, I wanted my photos to feel like they were old photos in a shoebox. And it's
Yeah.
like, I know that she could capture that.
Mm.
Can she do the like super posy editorial shot? Yes. But
Yes.
she's so good at capturing feeling. And
Yeah.
that was very important to me, because that's how I shoot. And so
Right.
I was
Right.
like, that's all I want, is to
That rings
capture the
true.
emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Um,
that.
so yeah, so I don't know if I fully answered that on the wedding
Definitely.
side.
Definitely.
Relationship side. What was the question again? Of like,
Just now that you've observed so many things, like what you've seen so
yeah.
many intimate moments of that
Well,
day.
I would say, thank thank the good Lord, I have had pretty much all of my couples have been so like have been so perfect for one another. And the groom, actually, so I before I met Brad, I was single pringle for like a decade, like literally, like
Yep.
my whole entire photography career. I was traveling the world single, didn't care, was loving
Yep.
life. um and of course there were times where I was sad, and like, I mean, I'm shooting love every weekend, and I'm like,
Right.
is this ever gonna happen for me? Like, are you kidding me?
Yes.
So that's why when single people come up to me and they like say that they're sad, I'm like, y'all don't even know. Like, my career is revolved around capturing love, and
Right.
I was
Right. Right.
the
Right.
most single person ever.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but I think that it was honestly incredible, because the grooms, I really have to like slow clap a lot of my grooms.
Mm.
They really set the bar high.
Yeah.
Because I saw how they treated their bride on the day. And I
Yeah.
always kept going back to like, do I want to settle, or do I want that? You know?
Yes.
And that just gave me chills. But like, because it's like, I just knew, I was like, I would rather be single for the rest of my life and be joyful and happy with where I'm at
Right.
than miserable in a relationship. And
Yep.
when Brad came into my life, we both were not like, we both were not looking for one another, which again, everyone always says it would be so annoying when I'd be single and be like, oh, it's going to come when you least expect it. And I'm like, right, not expecting it, not expecting it.
Yeah, exactly. How do I
how do
convince
I,
myself and
right,
trick myself that, yeah, I'm
right.
not expecting it at all?
Yeah. But, I will say it will come when you least expect it. And it's so funny because there was a prayer that I did probably about like a month prior to meeting Brad, where whether you believe in manifestation or prayer or whatever it is, like, I was writing in my journal, and I was like specifically writing out um, like physical traits, things that he would like, verbal
Wow.
things that he would say to me,
Yeah.
how he was with his family, just everything. I was very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Specific. Yeah, specific
Yeah.
about what I was like, this is what I'm praying for. A month later, he is like a walking image of everything in that journal
Wow.
entry. And like, I even read it out loud to him, and I was like, no, no, no. Like, I had it dated. Like, I did not just write this after our first date as like a
Right, right, right.
creepo. Like, I literally wrote this out a month prior to ever meeting
Yeah.
you. And I think and this is another side note that I could talk for hours. Our first date was terrible. And I think that it's just like such a sign of you could have the worst first date ever. And if it's your person, nothing can stand in the way.
Stand in the
You know what I
way.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the way that Brad treats me, especially like in those moments, like when we were in Scotland for our proposal, like the way that he just treated me in that moment, it made me look back to like all of my grooms.
Yeah.
And I think he just does such an amazing job of loving me. And that is like so worth just not settling. Like,
Mm.
I don't care if you're single in your 40s, like, it's just so much better to be with somebody that on your wedding day you can look at and like, again, taking the photos, you just feel it. There have been
Yeah.
very few times where like I will capture maybe not a wedding, but like an engagement or something where I look at it and I'm like, oh God, you know what I mean? Like you can,
Yeah.
like I can tell that I'm like, because I think some people have asked me that. They're like, can you tell like on a wedding day, like if they're gonna last? And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think you can tell on a wedding day if they're gonna last, but like I can tell during some portraits it's just not there.
The challenges, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And or like it's just not there how I would want it there. Like
Yes.
maybe for
Yeah.
them and that's great, but like how I would want it. And so I think that, you know, what you attract,
Yeah.
what you put out there is attracted to you. And I think that I have been very fortunate to attract couples that like
Yeah.
are so lovey-dovey and yeah, just great.
So much of that still comes back to knowing your why. Like, why do you want to be married?
Yes.
Why are you looking for this right person? Why are you waiting to be in a relationship, and kind of coming back
Yeah.
to that core?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love
Sorry
that.
for like a long response to
Oh
that
no,
question.
this is exactly what we're looking for. 100%. Well, Lyndsey, is there anything we haven't shared that you want to make sure we cover?
Oh my goodness. I don't think so. I feel like I could honestly talk for hours just about life in general. I'm like, how much time do y'all got?
Listen, that's
Do you
how
want
I
this to
am.
be
I'm
like
like,
a book, an ebook?
the limit does not exist when you get me behind a microphone. I could sit, well, I mean, that's just true probably of sitting me across from anyone. I could sit and talk for hours and hours and hours. Someone once told me, Ellie, I think you could sit and talk to a wall, and like a plain white one. There's nothing going on there, no texture,
Like, yeah.
no anything. And you'd walk away and be like, that was a great conversation. Yup, that was good. I'm like, I think that's a compliment. I'm just going to take it as such.
Oh my gosh, that was the nicest thing anyone ever said to me.
Well, you have an open invitation to come back and share whatever it is that
I
you
appreciate
want
it so
to
much.
as that continues to progress. But the final question I always ask, what is the one word you would choose to describe the current chapter of your story?
I know it's not like a profound word, but I think exciting. Like, I think I'm just stepping into, again, because when I go back to say live it, like do it and live it scared, there are definitely like things behind the scenes that are scary that I
Yeah.
deal with, in running two businesses and planning a wedding and the future and all of that. Like it's all scary. It's not all like a walk in the park, but I think if you focus on the bad, you're only going to see the bad. And so if you
Right.
focus on the good, it can really alter your mindset to look at each roadblock or challenge with just excitement. And,
Yeah.
planning a wedding, like I said in the very beginning, I was like, what? Like, this is not enjoyable.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, the big things are done. It's just, I'm excited. And then,
Yeah.
all the change that's going on in my business, I'm excited. Like all this
Yeah.
rebranding that I'm doing behind the scenes, all of this learning that I'm doing, getting into the luxury market, it's all scary, but it's also very exciting.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's just some amazing shift going on in my personal and business, world. And yeah, I'm just excited.
I love that. I think it's really important to recognize the seasons that, yes, when certain elements feel hard. I mean, being responsible for just yourself, not being able to really take off a day because you're responsible for your own business is a lot. But
sign into that. It was so funny because like someone said like, yeah, quit your 9-to-5 job to work 24 hours. And like, that is the most true thing
literally,
I've ever heard in my entire
yes,
life.
100%. But being in those seasons where you can just tell like there are things to be celebrated and I'm excited to do it, it's important to recognize those for what those are, to be just as present as you ask your brides to be, you know?
Yeah.
Being present in all those happy, exciting things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and even just this opportunity to speak with you and like haven't been able to catch up in so long. And I literally feel like it was yesterday. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, wait, as soon as we get off of this, do you want to like keep talking?
Seriously, because we probably could go for another 6 hours.
Absolutely. But I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope somebody took something away from this, whether you are starting a business or single Pringle and wanting to, you know, find someone or start a new business or move. Oh my gosh, I could talk about moving to a different country, you know, for another hour, but yeah, I'm just, whatever you're doing, if you're listening, just do it scared and do it bold and have fun with it.
I love it. Such sound wisdom. Well done, my friend.
Thank you.
We've come a long way from just...
We have. From stalking boys.
And then I'm thinking of all of the dance moves that probably would not be appropriate on any platform.
What are you talking about? I still do them every day.
That's way. We have a long way.
Maybe not me.
I don't believe that for a second.
Dance moves.
I mean, I am too, but maybe they're just not public to the internet.
I love it.
Which we should bring that back out if we're honest.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, don't you just feel inspired after talking to Lyndsey? Her story is one of redemption and choosing to follow the path God has laid out in front of you. In the midst of recovering from back surgery and losing a dream, she threw her passion into photography. And in the midst of dealing with her own skin issues, she found a solution and used it to empower her business and help others. What she shares about reminding yourself of your why is so helpful, especially in moments where you just feel so down and discouraged. If you're an upcoming bride, please make sure to head to the show notes and check out Lyndsey's incredible Instagram and portfolio. And be sure to support her as she evolves her business into new and creative ventures. And if you're interested in any NuSkin products, please reach out to me. I love my Lumi Spa and have a few products from NuSkin that have really made a difference in my skin, and I'd love to get you connected. I'd also love if you'd head over to the Share Your Story Instagram and share what part of Lyndsey's story encouraged you. I know it would mean so much to her and to me as well. I think this is the perfect episode to share with someone who needs motivation to chase after their dream, or even someone who just needs a reminder that your singleness is worth it, and there's so much good to come. Lyndsey offers so much encouragement, and I think this is such a great episode to share with a friend. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this show so this community can continue to grow. I'm so thankful to be able to share these stories with you.